Hello and welcome to a very spooky episode of the Neotaku podcast.
Oh my god.
Today I'm here with David Bones.
That doesn't work.
And Mirage Ghost. And I'm Spookly Matthews. I don't know.
Juanji the spooky Mexican ghost.
Pablo Escobar was my dad.
What are you fucking Borat? Hi, Borat. I'm Borat, the capital ghost. Yes.
So we're getting a little bit spooky up in here.
A bit spooky and kooky, yeah.
What?
Yeah.
What if we're being Black Mirrored right now, guys?
Oh shit!
What?
Wait. See,
The
here's
internet's
where I
killing
reveal
us.
my trap card. I've been gathering all the data about you for your Black Mirror episode thing.
The
Good
internet's
one.
bad and it's sucking your soul. We don't know how to relate to millennials. I'm a TV producer. Oh no, get me out of here.
Donald Trump is releasing the JFK files. Illuminati.
Oh shit!
Woo!
We're gonna find out about Ted Cruz's true past.
Ted Cruz
That's the
was
Zodiac
the guy
killer.
who shot JFK. I didn't know this. Because this is just gonna become a conspiracy cast.
Okay, look, right? They're gonna call me a fool. They're gonna call me a weirdo. They're gonna call me an idiot, right? But they already do that, right? Ted Cruz is not only
Joke's
the
on them.
Zodiac killer, he killed JFK and faked the moon landing. I rest my case.
I don't get people who think the moon landing was faked. I really don't understand it. Like, I don't see the proof. Like, I suppose, like, it could have been, like, a big thing back in, like, the 60s and the 50s, but, like, come the fuck on. Like, there's enough proof there that's, like, I don't know, man.
Dude, the moon isn't even real. Hashtag moon truthers.
What if the moon is just, it's literally just a light bulb we threw into space, but it was,
moon's
like,
made of
it was
cheese,
a water
Grudge.
light bulb, so,
It's
like,
made of cheese.
oh, man. Oh, jeez, I'm sorry. Ooh.
Okay, David, that reminds me of something, right? Now, David over here, when I was in Melbourne, was shit-talking Wallace from Wallace and Gromit.
Wallace is the least attractive thing I've ever seen. The most sexless being. He probably doesn't even have genitals. Like, he's got a pinhead, no
thick
eyebrows,
as
no
fuck.
hair, hairless clay body.
Anyways,
Alright,
your point?
alright. In the YouTube comments, on Twitter, right? Tell me, who is Wallace? Is he thick as fuck, big booty bitch?
What?
Or is he a sexless fucking Joji Matthews of a person?
I don't know. He's a clay figure from a fucking cartoon. What?
I rest my case.
Anyway, he is in actually one of the first horror movies that I ever saw.
Oh, really?
Nice segue.
Yeah,
Oh, by the way,
Attack of
yeah,
the-
we are
the
talking about spooky
were-rabbit.
shit. Yeah, the were-rabbit.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Almost as cool as the were-hog from Sonic the Hedgehog. Sonic Unleashed.
Is that your first horror game? The Werehogs
Yes.
from the Sonic franchise?
Definitely.
You were so fucking
Definitely.
terrified by them. You were just like, no, I'm out. I'm out.
I was just too spooked, man. They were just too tough.
Are you going somewhere with the were-rabbit thing?
Well,
I don't know.
we can
Okay,
get into
I'm-
like our favorite, like what were our first horror movies? Like
Oh,
that, because that's kind of what he was jumping off of, I think.
I think I always found like the Simpsons Treehouse of Horror specials like pretty creepy.
Really?
Because I mean, like as a kid, I didn't understand like any like that. Pretty much all of them were like parodies or references of like to actual movies. So yeah, especially like the whole Night on Elm Street one, where it was actually like Willie the groundskeeper, killing kids. That was fucking spooky to me. Yeah. Is it really that surprising? Like, I don't know.
No, you just never think of like Simpsons as being like
Yeah.
the one your first like horror experience. I don't know.
There was
You go ahead.
there was one Simpsons episode where Homer fell down the back of the couch and he was in a CGI world. I can't remember what episode it was. I think it was Treehouse of Horror 6.
Yeah, it was one of them.
Yeah, it's like one of them. It's one of the later ones, I think.
That was very creepy. Because like it sort of breaks the boundaries of mediums, like especially like, you know, back there when like CG wasn't, it was barely a thing at all, and to like see the fucking like whole aesthetic of the show change like that, and like Homer being stuck in this fucking like grid dimension shit.
Yeah.
It's
something about
creepy.
it was weird and spooky and
it's dissonant. I think, like, which is kind of the basis of horror. So it totally makes sense.
I mean, my experience, you know, this isn't particularly horror involved, but my experience with The Simpsons has been really different from everybody around me. I didn't watch The Simpsons throughout my childhood. I actually didn't start watching... I didn't even watch a Simpsons episode actually until like a year ago. Like,
wow.
Yeah. And my friends were like, wow, you've really avoided The Simpsons that long? And it's like, it's not really like I avoided it. It's rather that like nobody in my family watched it. We watched Futurama. That was weekends for me and my family. So I don't know.
Speaking of werewolves, there is also a big spooky episode of Futurama where Bender becomes like a werecar.
Yes!
I found... You've seen that? Yeah.
Yes!
Something about that was also like equally chilling. Yeah.
That episode is like the fucking best.
Yeah, I think like the thing especially with like horror episodes within like cartoons like Simpsons and Futurama is like that whole tonal dissonance where it's like you're used to watching this show for like laughs, but then suddenly they're bringing on this like complete change of tone, and it's all spooky, and it's like, as a kid especially, it's like, what the hell is going on? And it's a big spook.
I'm looking up the Werebender stuff because, like, I remember that
Curse
episode...
of the Werecar, it's called.
Yeah, I remember that episode particularly just fucking me up as a kid, and just being like, dude, Bender's a car, but he's also a man. And, like, there's, like, almost, like... This is gonna sound really weird and stuff, because, like, I've been... I don't know. But, like, it has kind of, like, a sexual bent to it, almost. I don't know why. I always got that when I was a kid. I was like, oh, this is weird.
I guess the way that he kind of morphed into it... I guess the way he kind of morphed into the car, like when they finally show it on screen was kind of... there was an element to it, okay? Yeah. I don't know. You started this, okay?
No, I don't know. It just felt like really almost like, oh god, what was that one thing that was going around social media for a while? The one with the chick with the book and then she turns into like, you know, like a stripper or prostitute or goes back and forth and whatever, and everybody...
Oh, that meme?
Yeah, and all the feminists, like, propagated it as, like, something, like, super sexual and stupid and gross. Like, it's kind of like that kind of fetish in transitioning. I don't know. So, like, I always got...
Yeah.
I know this is weird, but, like, still. Maybe I'm the creepy one.
The real horror is fetishes.
The real horror is Murgle. My personal experience with horror was, so, like, as a little kid, I've always been very overreactive imagination. I write a lot. I've always drawn. I've always done art and stuff. So, like, dreams and, like, nightmares specifically stuck with me a lot. I remember, like, particularly avoiding horror movies for most of my youth, just because I was like, dude, it's gonna fuck me up. It's gonna fuck me up for days. I can't do it. And to this day, I've watched only a small amount of horror, but, like, I remember my first horror movie was with my cousin. She's a bitch. Fuck her. But anyway.
Yeah,
but,
fuck you.
Fuck her. She fucking RuneScape. It's a long story. We'll get into it next time.
RuneScape. Oh, childhood MMOs should definitely be an episode. I was a big RuneScape boy. But yeah, go on.
But we sat down. I think my mom went out. It was midday, and we watched The Wicker Man, the Nicolas Cage movie. And that
the Nick Cage version of The Wicker.
I was terrified of that fucking movie.
Is that the one with the bees scene?
Yes.
Okay. Alright.
Don't fucking laugh at me.
That one's a remake of like a 1970s horror movie, which is like super critically acclaimed. And then there's just the shitpost version starring Nicolas Cage.
So the shitpost version of The Wicker Man terrified me when I was a kid. But I watched the other Wicker Man, and I still love that fucking movie. I'm like a big, like, witchy, like, bitches and witches kind of person. So, like, and, like, the bee scene.
Bitches and witches kind of gal.
I have a terrifying phobia of bees. And the bee scene fucked me up so bad as a kid. I just was like, no, thank you. I'm done. I'm gone. Goodbye. Don't ever put a bee near me. I didn't care about the burning of, like, the people and stuff. I didn't give a shit. I was the bee scene that just fucked me. It was done.
That actually reminds me of a very horrifying experience that I had just yesterday. At the time of recording, when this is released, it'll be like a week ago. So I've had a fear of crickets for a very long time because when I lived in a small town, people would throw crickets on my back in the middle of summer. And,
what?
Yeah, that was a thing that people would do. Like, they would collect crickets and they would put them in these, like, bottles, and they would take them and they would throw them at each other, and they got, like, on the back of my neck and shit, and fucking crickets. They're all dead now, by the way. But
you obliterated them.
Like,
Omae wa mo shindeiru.
Yeah, I just went. But like, so yesterday I was out at this farm for a thing with synthesizers and noise music and field recordings and stuff, and there was this tent that we had to go to because everything's like on this schedule. It's like a weird hybrid music live performance versus like experiment festival. And there's this tent where you have to eat bugs. Not live ones, like cooked ones. And it was called Insecta Delecta. And one of the things that we had to eat were roasted crickets. And I just like saw these creatures that caused me such torment, and I felt like I was God consuming them. But what's really horrifying about this is that, like, the first thing that we had to eat was, like, a jelly, and it was just the grossest, slimiest thing ever, and it just triggered me to an extreme extent.
Did they tell you what it's made of?
Yeah, it's like regular jelly, except they, like, mix ants in with it.
Oh, man.
So it's just like a real picnic?
Yeah!
Yeah.
It's like ant guts. That's the dish. That's what you call it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. God, when I came over to Australia and everything, I think I talked about this a tiny bit in one other episode, but me and my because he lives he lives in Queensland, down from Melbourne, I believe, and like. It was
Melbourne's at the other end of the nation.
I don't know.
To Queensland.
I'm lost.
Yeah.
I don't know. Who knows? Anyways, he lives near like the coast in Queensland, and like, we had a really, really, really bad ant infestation, and I woke up one morning with ants all over my body because they were coming and streaming through the house, and I can tell you, boys. Bees didn't seem that bad at that point. We had and the worst experience I had was we had to vacuum them up, and because they put out all their scents and bullshit and everything, that like it just attracts more ants and they start freaking out and clustering. They were nesting in the alcohol cabinet. And we had to clean up the alcohol cabinet. I just remember moving a bottle of scotch and just black covered.
Oh my god.
Covered the cabinet entirely. Oh. I can tell you for sure now, you know, I used to like ants. I was like one of those kids like, I can't step on the ant because like, you know, that'd be killing somebody. No, fuck them. Fuck them. Ants are evil. Ants are gross.
Fuck 2017.
Like, they ate my fucking pumpkin bread. Fuck them. They ate my bread in the kitchen.
They ate my melon pan. They can all die.
They ate my bread, my onpon. I couldn't run to school like a real schoolgirl.
I raised my beta capsule up high and fucking laser blasted them.
Yeah, pretty much. I don't know.
My house has lost many a peanut butter jar to ants. It's unfortunate.
Yeah.
I hate it. I
hate
them all.
Over here in the US, like, people like are like, oh, Australia bugs, scorpion's gonna eat my leg off. I'm just like, pussies. But you go there and you don't expect for your house to be totally infested by the ants of 4chan. Like, and whoop-de shit. Like, when bugs come into your house, they come in hard in Australia, is my experience. And I'm like, damn, all right.
Yeah, like when I was in small town life, when I was a small town country girl, there was a whole bunch of spiders in the bathroom, and the other bathroom was under renovation, so I had to stare at these spiders every day while I was showering. They were just hanging out there on the ceiling and shit, and I'm just like, I'm not even scared of spiders anymore. I'll just dead ass kill one, but like fucking, I'll dead ass ice a nigga, you know. But like, fucking spiders are spooky. I don't know.
My God, I can't. Like, spiders don't bug me at all. Like, I'm really actually not scared of them that much. I mean, when I see one, if it's crawling up on my bed, bitch is gonna get blasted. But like, they've never bugged me. And like, scorpions are like the coolest bugs ever to me. I love fucking scorpions. Maybe it's because I've just grown up just like idolizing scorpions because I am a Scorpio. So I'm like, man, I'm I'm gonna sting people and they can go fuck off.
I just had a Vietnam flashback, by the way. So my last bedroom, for a short while, there was a spider within it, and it fell on my face, and I woke up at like 2 a.m. and it ran across my face, and I just straight up annihilated everything in my bedroom. Like it was just gone. There was no room after that shit. Like, fucking don't fuck with Joji. He fucks back twice as hard.
We probably shouldn't spend a solid hour like telling spider stories, but I just want to wrap that up with there was a point I think a few months ago where there was a spider dwelling, so like between the folds of my curtain, and I knew it was there. I allowed it to dwell there because I figured it was like. It was black, and like, I don't know, okay, let's not go there.
No, go ahead. This is what people click for. They click for spider stories for their Halloween podcast. Go.
I think I did sort of look up what kind of spider it was, but yeah, like basically any spider that's not like a big huntsman or a daddy longlegs, they're gonna be really poisonous. So I just didn't want to deal with that. So I just kind of let that be. Next time I look at it, like a few months later, it's laid eggs and it's got like 1 million little spider babies within its web.
Oh, that reminds me. I'm sorry. I'm gonna keep perpetuating this. We'll move on from bug stories after this, I promise. But my little stepsister, who I'll lovely call Ramon, she has a horrifyingly crushing fear of spiders. I think she's a pussy personally, but I love her anyways. So, but I'm in her room and we're packing stuff for undisclosed reasons. And we move a sweater of hers because she hasn't been in her room for months. And she moves the sweater and there is just a nest of baby spider eggs.
Oh, shit.
Like, and they explode. And the baby spiders all scream out. And she just screams like a little bitch. Like, she's like, ah! Just like...
That's when you get the fucking Mortine out and you just go, fucking cunts, get out!
Get out!
Australia's full!
Get out of here!
Australia's full.
Just, Jesus Christ. It was the spider was starting crawling on her, and it was the funniest just to watch her, like, run out of the room. I was just like, oh, jeez. I mean, they like, any amount of bugs like that, those are wild, but it's just... Yeah. Moving on from spooky bugs, trigger warning, when it comes to media, like, horror media, what do you guys like? What has left a really big impact on you, like media-wise, recently
horror?
Or just in the past? Yeah, with
video games, horror video games. Slender Man, the Slender game. I was 12. Slender Man video game.
Oh no!
Don't look behind you. Don't look at the spooky businessman with a blank face. The static. We spent like countless like wasted school lessons like installing the Slender Man game on computers at school and playing them. I mean that was more of an entertainment factor, but yeah, for a brief time before it was like kind of just a meme. The Slender was very spooky. It's a very spooky concept. Because like the very thing that you want to do, like look behind you to check if you're safe, is what's gonna like kill you, make you get staticked and spooked. And Slender in general just sort of got me into like a lot of horror games, like Amnesia, you know, like Amnesia was like fucking massive. And Amnesia was really effective because of like that whole insanity kind of mechanic that it had. Because like again, it sort of like plays on your sort of desire to like check for the spooky monsters. But like it ultimately is just gonna...
it stole from a Nintendo game.
What would that be?
It's like Eternal Darkness or something. It's for the GameCube.
Huh. I feel like there's another also like another sort of older game that had that mechanic. I can't remember, but yeah. I know there was a game with that sort of element to it. It might have been that I Have No Mouth But I Must Scream, like really old
that
game.
That game is fantastic.
I
story
like
is fantastic.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, that... So, I don't think that horror is particularly good in general. I think that there's just a lot of really shitty horror.
It relies on gimmicks. It relies on like as a genre, it relies on gimmicks. So like it always should be kind of attached to another thing, I think. There was like this one horror book that I found really interesting. I think it was called like Skeleton Creek or something. Which had a really interesting gimmick. Where what you would do is you would get these codes while you were reading through the book, and then it would unlock videos on this website. And basically, like, it would give you, you know, all of this spooky shit. And, you know, but, like,
that's just like a kid's horror book, right? You know, that's like fucking gimmicky and it's stupid, you know, kiddie literature. It's not anything interesting. Even though there's lots of good kids books. I highly recommend reading good ones. But like then, you know, I grew up a little bit and then I read I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. And
how old were you? How old were you at this point?
Like 16 when I read I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream.
Okay. Alright. Yeah.
And that's just a genuinely horrifying book. Short story, really. It's not a book. Yeah. And the game has great visuals that accompany that, you know, narrative and everything.
Oh, sorry, I'm popular.
I'm trying to retrace my memory as to when I found out about I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. I like... Oh, gosh. Horror games that deal with the technology singularity, and like shit like sentient AI fuck me to the core because it's so installed into our lives, like technology now at this point, that like just the idea of like I'm not with Best Guy Ever or like any of the PCP on their shit about the technology singularity. I think robots should be under our control for all of eternity because I don't want that shit to turn on me. I can't live with that. I have my computer on all night. That screen is staring at me all night. I'm not dealing with that. That's not happening, buddy. Like, I have enough nightmares about that shit in general. And the worst part is that it's just so intriguing. It's just the best horror that I just can't stop. I can't stop fucking subjecting myself to it. Like, I recently watched all through Doki Doki Literature Club, and I regret everything because now I couldn't sleep. I had to go to sleep at 4 a.m. because I was laying there being like, Monica is always here. Monica's always here. Fuck sentient technology horror. It fucks me. I love it, but I can't deal with it. How you guys doing with the computer apocalypse? How you guys doing?
I'm trying to search for like my mind for like that kind of thing you're talking about with like sentient AI screwing with things, but
it's called Shelter.
It's called
Noodle
Skynet.
All of those people.
It's called Skynet.
But yeah, no, I don't really have that much experience with like being spooked by AI. Again, apart from like the Simpsons parody Treehouse of Horror thing of Space Odyssey, where like they had like a house with like the Howl red light thing, trying to kill them. Simpsons is basically my basis of all horror. But yeah, I think like the strength of horror stuff like is always like in the concepts, because like that's sort of the element that makes you feel like the least safe when you've like come out of watching that movie or playing that game. One thing that really got me spooked for like a solid few weeks was actually Attack on Titan. Like when I'd first been watching that.
No, I can feel you. Yeah, like Attack on Titan really has a lot of those themes.
Yeah.
Okay, I have an admission to make.
Well,
fucking Tokyo Ghoul scared me.
Really?
When I first watched it.
Really?
Really?
Wow.
I liked Tokyo Ghoul when I first watched it.
The first couple of episodes were cool. Yeah,
I love Tokyo Ghoul, so I don't see the problem.
Yeah.
The first episode was good, and after that it all went downhill.
Yeah.
I don't think like it was the greatest like throughout all the season, but nevertheless, it was still pretty solid. I'm looking forward to. I really wish the Junji Ito collection has come out already, because I want to like talk about that and Junji Ito works like Tomi or Uzumaki. Like, shit's lit.
I like the one that he did about poop. That's my favorite Junji Ito manga.
What?
A shit to remember. That's it. Yeah.
It's really But yeah, I a couple of weeks ago I came across a video. I can't remember what it's called, unfortunately. But yeah, it was one of those many kind of videos that kind of sucked Junji Ito's dick. But they brought up a good point about how Junji Ito's horror, like for like a big element of it is about kind of exploring like obsessiveness. Like say in his like most popular short, The Enigma of Amigara Fault. Josie just threw me off by posting a link to a shit to remember. Link in the comment. Amigara Fault kind of explores it's like not really trypophobia, but like this sort of concept of like many holes in one place and stuff like that. Bad example. There's another short one which is about oil. There's this girl and she has a brother and her father is like a chef. Like they own like a family restaurant. It's super oily all the time because he's always frying stuff. And the boy is like constantly drinking oil, like obsessively, and basically just like over the course of the short, like the whole house it gets covered in oil and like everyone's really oily and has pimples and it's really creepy and there's pus coming out of everyone's face. And of course Uzumaki is like entirely centered around like the imagery of a spiral. And I think it's like kind of like expanding upon these like creepy kind of small obsessivities that we have that makes it really spooky and sticks in your head and it's a spook.
I never knew about the oil one. I remember seeing...
I'll try and find it after.
I remember seeing the Enigma of Amigara Fault on Tumblr back in my weeboo days. And I wanted to cry because I couldn't sleep. Like claustrophobia, just...
absolutely.
Everybody's learning my weaknesses, but know this. I will become stronger than you in the end.
I will.
It's really ominous.
I will.
I have been drinking this protein powder with bones mixed into it, and I'm going to be strong.
And ants, and spiders, and scorpions.
Hi, Kate. If you're an AX, I'm gonna order a thing of the Alex Jones protein powder, and we're gonna drink it. We're gonna drink Alex Jones protein powder.
Mix it with a ton of bugs, maybe some oil, some shit
and
too.
Gay frogs.
Yep. Well, oh yeah, we're definitely gonna have some gayness mixed in.
I think we can talk also about rather creepypasta and internet horror.
I was literally so down to go there. Ben Drowned.
Take it away, boy.
Ben Drowned was first, and it's the creepypasta that like everyone knows. Like you think of creepypasta and you think of Ben Drowned, and actually I like you were talking before about how like AI and technology getting fucked around is super spooky. That was spooky to me. Like the whole sort of concept of like paranormal being mixed with like technology that we believe is safe, which I think is also kind of explored in like stuff like The Ring, and other things that I can't remember. But yeah, like it's a really sort of confronting and concerning sort of fear, like that technology might not entirely be under our control. And plus I think with Ben Drowned, like having the paranormal added with technology, but also the technology being kind of retro because it was like an N64 game. It creates like a sort of urban legend kind of feel to it, and it's all spooky. And also what really fucked me up was I think I remember in the story the narrator talks about communicating with like the spooky duke that's in the game through I think it's called Chatterbot, like that this like a chat bot thing. It's like an AI. If you chat with that thing on the website and you talk about Ben, it's going to talk back to you about Ben drowning, and it's that fucks me up. It's like like it sort of solidifies it.
It's kind of like in like the like recent years of just horror just expanding for us. I think every period in history when it comes to literature has different shapes of how horror kind of creates itself, and now we're going through the ARG technology singularity kind of like horror, where like a lot of it, you're going to see an installment somewhere of like phones or video cameras or like just recorders in general just being a part of horror stories now, because they're literally so ubiquitous and intrinsic in our lives. And like,
well, yeah.
Yeah.
What's interesting about like the video recorder as like a piece of horror, like as a literary device in itself, is that it's kind of functioned since you know, like the Blair Witch Project back in like what, the mid-90s or something.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so we've seen like since then there's this like giant rise in independent horror that uses like a VHS recorder as like a way of showing all of these weird disjointed stories in the VHS collection.
Yeah.
That's
And-
like actually the name of it.
And how
Yeah.
a lot of like found footage films like play with the kind of medium of video recording, because like a lot of those found footage films like use like distortion and corruption to like build this sort of really unique atmosphere, and it's cool. Horror's cool when they do it good.
yeah, horror is cool. I don't know. What about like horror that you guys like didn't expect as a kid? Like things that scared you when you were a kid, but they don't really now. And like even if you still kind of understand why they scared you, like you know how YMS talked about like pieces of media that terrified him as a kid, but now it's like, what the fuck? Why am I scared of Jumanji? Like, like one for example is like the episodes of Teen Titans with fucking Raven and her father and everything, and just that okay, like that series isn't finished, but the fucking season finale for that specific season like just fucked me up entirely, of just the idea of the world just singularly ending and you being the only person left and you being the reason why you're the only person left. Like, damn.
Damn.
The 1998 film Ants scared me a lot. I've already talked about it on this podcast. But hey guys, maybe don't bill a movie as for kids when there's decapitation in it.
Is there actually...
Maybe don't have suffocation in a movie that's for kids. Maybe don't have a picnic in which your main cast gets suffocated on cling wrap in a movie that's apparently made for babies.
I remember that
shit.
scene now. I was like, wait, ants. I remember that. I'm like, wait, the cling wrap scene. That scene fucked me up as a kid. I stayed far the fuck away from bags after that. I was like, oh, damn. I don't remember anything else about that movie except the fucking cling wrap. Oh, God.
Exactly. That movie fucked my childhood since I was a small boy. Since I was the smallest of boys.
Oh my God.
I was like a newborn baby and they just thrust that movie in my mouth. And, I don't know.
Okay, alright. Alright.
Okay, maybe there are some more deep-seated issues than having seen the film.
I mean, if they were really that
but-
deep-seated, I suppose, buddy. You just...
I can't think of any particularly good examples, but did you guys see like the Winnie the Pooh like compilation kind of movie thing? It's like a big sort of compilation of like all of like the short film things of Winnie the Pooh. Yeah, no?
No.
Not in particular. I don't exactly know what you're getting at. Like, do you remember the original compilation name? I could look it up.
It's just called The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. But what I'm getting at is there is a scene. I think it's kind of like a dream sequence. But like it's got like a bunch of like dancing elephants or heffalumps as they're called in there.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's got a bunch of really trippy shit, and it's really creepy. Sort of like it's like bombastic, but like sort of dissonant, kind of like brass orchestral stuff going on. I think sort of like trippy imagery, and just like really I think what bothered me a lot was like how sort of bouncy it was like animated, and like it played with like perspective in like weird ways, and I think just confronting kind of trippy imagery with like dissonant music was disturbing to me as a kid, I think.
That reminds me of another piece of Winnie the Pooh media that scared me a lot as well.
Mm-hmm.
The Winnie the Pooh ride at Disneyland.
Like, which Disneyland exactly? Is it the one over here?
Anaheim, yeah.
Oh, God. Oh, yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, it has so it starts off, it's just like a normal Winnie the Pooh adventure, and then like it opens up to this insane, I think it's the same scene that you're like depicting, but this one's like in a ride.
Oh shit.
Time to take David.
There's like these big horns playing, and there's these crashing cymbals and everything, and it's just like, whoa, whoa, whoa,
Yeah.
whoa, 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 whoa. And then there's like, you know, is the Cheshire Cat in it? There's something that looks like the Cheshire Cat.
Heffalumps
but
and
yeah.
woozles. Oh.
God, fucking.
It's
Actually, yeah, I'm looking at, I'm seeing the thumbnail for that Heffalumps and Woozle sequence. There's a shot where like these two elephants in like a tuxedo and like a ballerina outfit, and they're like dancing around in like honey, and I think just like seeing like the texture of the honey just like being the way that it was also just really strange. But yeah,
It's just
that's
a weird.
just like
It's just weird. It's just a weird sequence. I'm actually flashing back to this as a kid and just being like, the one thing that fucked me up was when like the honey elephant is like sucking up the honey from Pooh's pot, and like he just explodes, and I'm like, no, nobody, no, don't leave me, no.
Dude, I think I've just found the cause of all of the inflation fetishes on DeviantArt. You know, that Freudian psychology, you know, yeah.
Inflation fetishes deal with Freudian psychology. I didn't actually know this. Please tell me more.
Same with Rule 34. You just gotta. I'll get you in touch with one of my contacts, and he'll explain it to you.
Inflation fetishes? Sure, all right. I mean, he's got the source. He's got the sauce, I suppose.
Is this Joji?
He's got that
is this
raw
your
sauce.
Friend?
No
is this
ketchup.
Is this your friend and associate Onomaster?
Well, perhaps.
I haven't heard from him in a while, actually. I've been wondering
Yeah,
where he is.
he disappeared after
Okay.
getting attacked by a hentai samurai.
I wonder if
as it
Hentai
turned
Samurai
out.
would know
I
anything
didn't
about
realize. I didn't realize he was
I
so
think
vicious.
they're actually
Samurai.
locked in a vicious battle between my closet and his closet. It's this very strange, like, linking tunnel system. And that's why neither of them have made videos in a while, you know? They're just fighting it out.
Do you think Shinobi 3 might also know something about this too? I wonder if Shinobi 3 can connect the routes.
Does Shinobi 3 actually know the real location of the furnace room? Because, like, you know, maybe the furnace room is just, like, one of the endpoints of that series of paths. Who knows?
What are we doing? So things are scary. I remember my first actual experience with horror games. I don't know. It's kind of a mixture. It's like my first actual playing a fucking horror game was Amnesia. I like actually sat down after watching Jesse Cox play it and like just played through the whole game back in like 2010. I didn't sleep
Have you
well.
actually played the whole thing?
Yeah.
Holy, I never could get past like the fucking first. Like,
It took
area.
forever. It was me as a little kiddo after school with the lights
Lord.
turned on entirely, just going through. I can't fucking understand people who play horror games in the dark. Like, oh yeah, I don't know what the fuck's gonna happen to me. Might as well just turn off the lights, lock my door, you know? I don't know. I'm like... You're fucking crazy.
As soon as you said turn off the lights, that gave me a David's Films reference, but I know that that's not happening until his mixtape comes out, so
I
that...
think Kanye West. Turn off the light, Dad. Na, na, na.
Turn off the lights.
I don't know.
Turn off the lights in here, baby.
It's
Turn
too
the
bright,
lights
I
on
wanna sleep
to
in.
see nothing.
But like Amnesia was my first actual experience into Cthulhian horror too. If there's like one genre of horror that I love, it's Cthulhian horror, which is like the littest shit ever. For you guys who are uninitiated in recording this through your eardrums, Cthulhian horror is pretty much, it's horror dealing with unknown extraterrestrial like tentacle beings created by H.P. Lovecraft.
I'm more familiar with just like the term Lovecraftian in general. But yeah.
Innsmouth and stuff like that, and then it only just like came off of that from like Bloodborne. After Bloodborne came out, I jumped into that and whatnot. I don't know, like Cthulhian horror, just the idea of not having control of things just really fucks me up, and I just I do not like that.
You mentioned H.P. Lovecraft, and so when I was in Sydney for Smash, I was at the Japanese bookstore, right?
Mm-hmm.
And my friend and I, we were going through the English section, and she picks up this book that's like Minecraft jokes, and we open it to one of the pages, and it says, "Who invented Herobrine?" And it said H.P. Lovecraft.
Low key, even though the Herobrine thing is like super kiddie horror and everything, it still kind of fucked me up while playing like Minecraft. Yeah. Just like as a kid, just like, you know, I'm just watching out for the fucking creepers that are gonna fucking skulk into my freaking underground fortress. And then like, I see out of the corner of my eye, like this man, and I'm like, no. I mean, like when the Slender, like what the fuck are they named? They're like
Enderman.
Enderman. When the Endermen were fucking patched in, I was like, nope, not playing the game anymore. Sorry, not happening. I'm done. I'm gone. Like, just I
think video games are cool for their potential to like craft horror narratives, but I think that a lot of the time it does get kind of wasted, at least in terms of like potential.
I remember doing a big piece in like a paper for high school about the effects of horror in video games and driving narratives and how it ties into Jungian theory, like or Zhang or whatever. I don't know, some fucking
Jungian?
Yeah, sure, some pretentious fuckwad can tell me that I'm pronouncing it incorrectly. But yeah, I don't know. Like the way that like horror can be told through like different narratives. Horror looks really different in a lot of different ways we consume media. Like there's a lot more effort that has to be put into making a horror narrative through a book than there does in a movie or a video game or something like that. Or like you have to be a bit more careful about creating a horror narrative in a movie than you do have to be in let's say, I don't know, you have to just be careful. Like I think that's the thing, because there are horror movies that just go above and beyond. It's like, all right, this is stupid. Like this is silly. Like there was the big, I think, who was it? Was it iPatch Wolf or was it somebody else who did the recent Shining video that talked about particularly the difference of it between the TV series version versus the movie version, and like how like the wolf mask scenes, like they're totally different in them, and like one feels just super cartoony and not really meant, while the other one is like so paralyzingly like, what the fuck is that it emits fear in like a much better like way rather than.
Yeah, yeah. It's like that sort of existential horror aspect where it's like you feel like you are almost like unable to comprehend what this is and what is occurring, like especially in that like one shot of like this wolf just like in a room, versus a wolf man like jumping out and going, I'm gonna eat you. Yeah.
I mean, I think that horror movies for the most part are made by bad directors, and so when you get a genuinely good director like Stanley Kubrick on the scene, making a horror movie, that's where you get this kind of really unique aspect to direction that makes the Shining film like so spooky and scary and stuff. And we see elements of The Shining kind of reflected in really odd locations from like a shot compositional techniques and stuff like that. Like the amount of Steadicam shots since The Shining have like drastically increased, and so you need to look at it like from both the side of technique as to how it was made, like camera technique and stuff, to how it was made spooky as well. Because at the time it was a film that looked completely different from everything before.
That's the wild thing about particularly these movies and stories, that like we hallmark as like being like of the time and changing, that like people look back at it now, it's like, well, what the fuck are they doing different? I can't tell. And it's like you have to research now to actually understand like what they did different, because like all of that has been kind of homogenized into modern cinema and whatnot. I don't know. Like I don't like when I think of like pop horror in particular, and like especially the ubiquity of jump scares, I wonder how like the jump scare can be revitalized like in video games to be actually terrifying again, and not like just, oh fuck, a jump scare, it's there again. Look at that.
From my understanding, it's pretty much always just like a matter of like building the atmosphere and tension like beforehand, like rather than just like showing the cards in a jump scare like immediately.
The thing is that like if you watch any of those college dropout film students who now have YouTube channels with 100,000 subscribers, they'll always say that like the backbone of a good jump scare is like building an efficient spooky atmosphere beforehand, and then like kind of delivering off on these shorter bursts of payoff.
Seeing how we were going into movies, I want to bring up the recent It movie, because as a whole, I really liked it. I liked how like it wasn't really treating horror like so much as a genre, but like as an element of the movie, because like a big part of it was like this kind of children's adventure movie, with this really sort of nostalgic sense to it. It overused jump scares like hell. Not particularly, not exactly jump scares, but like it provided that sort of peak and valley of jump scares way too much and became very predictable. That's its own thing though. What really got me engaged was the first like 5 or 10 minutes of it. The whole scene of there's the rain and Pennywise is in the drain. Firstly, the imagery of it really got me hooked, because I basically didn't know anything about it. Have you guys seen it, by the way?
Every time I think of Pennywise in the fucking drain, I just think like, hey kid, wanna buy some drugs?
Those memes, yeah.
But yeah.
Joe, have you seen it?
No, I have not.
Okay, the imagery of it. So like, you can barely see his face, but you can see his piercing yellow eyes through the darkness, which is already like in its like like confined sort of a frame of like the sewer entry thing. The way he spoke to the kid George really like got on my skin, because what he does is he spoke to him like as if he was kind of like an actual clown. He's like, "Oh, I'm a clown, Georgie. Oh, I come from the zoo. I mean, the fucking the circus. We have popcorn. We have popcorn here. Pop, pop, pop." And I found it really chilling how he was actually like, you could tell that he was like, this was an intelligent being, and he was like manipulating his sort of relationship with the kid to try and relate to him and get him to trust him. And that's what really creeped me out, because he was. I think it sort of reflects like it's sort of real life creeps who like try to kind of relate to you in order to kill you or murder you or get in your pants. It's like they create this illusion of safety, and then they completely tear it off and murder you. And that element of like this, you can feel the intelligence and like the malice under this persona of like this safe, happy thing. And it's a big spook.
I mean, especially with it and just like how it like defines a lot of its tension. It really talks about like the position of being a child in the world and like being able to be manipulated and kind of preying on that. I just find like not a lot of people are very comfortable with going that way, and I'm happy Stephen King did, like at the time he did, especially with like, when was it like the book written? It was like
it was in the 80s, because the
Yeah.
original film was 1991. So
It was written in the 80s but set in the 50s.
I mean,
whereas
I remember
this version's set in the 80s.
I remember from what I've read, I have a weird fascination with just murder victims and all that shit. That, like, a lot of, like, rape and especially, like, more popularized, like, finding of crimes and bodies, like, were, like, really being thrown out in the 70s and early 80s. And, like, I don't know, like, it takes some real guts to, like, really go into a narrative where, you know, a little kid and a whole bunch of other little kids are fucking each other in a sewer, and, like, there's a clown, and, like, I remember a lot of reading about its, like, story based, I'm sorry. I remember a lot of the narrative for it being inspired off of the John Wayne Gacy cases and everything, and just the prevalence of, like, just being willing to be like, you know what, this is gonna make people uncomfortable, this is gonna scare people, who gives a shit? Because, you know, good fucking horror scares people, despite it's, like, I don't know, it's uncomfort, just in general. Like, can't stop. You can't stop yourself from writing a good horror narrative, or, like, stop yourself from, like, creating a story just because somebody's gonna get really butt-hurt and butt-twisted about it, I suppose.
Twisted.
Yeah, butt twisted.
And, you know,
twist the buns.
David, what you were saying about sorry,
Oh, lovely.
it earlier, reminded me of Dan Gilroy's 2014 film Nightcrawler. Have either of you happened to see
I've
that?
heard about
yes.
it. I want to watch it. I need to get around to getting it.
So, like, Lou Bloom, Lewis, the main character of the film, he's like an A-class manipulator. Like, he's just, that's all he does throughout the entire
He is
film.
a psychopath.
Yeah, he is. But like, there are scenes in which, you know, it's like, hey, he's the nice guy, Lewis, you know, and he's hanging out with the station rep, and, you know, he's like, hey, and then, like, it gets to, like, something, like, when he's standing in the thing, and he is like, you will do what I fucking say, and, you know, and then he's just, you know, fucking handing her this drive of shit, and it's just like, hey, you're gonna fucking die in 2 weeks, and then he gets his colleague killed. And it's super cool how he, like, generally, what, like, functions is that he creates this dissonance between outward and inward personas, and then, like, in the end, they kind of invert, which is cool. And then they return to their exact same state at the very end of the film.
Yeah.
Is Nightcrawler the light Yagami of Time Past? Because, like,
No, it's the Light Turner.
Shut up. I like, because hearing that, like, it kind of reminds me of like we could consider in like some very smaller, lighter way Death Note being a horror narrative, although like it's a lot of pop horror. I don't know, like there's a lot of like talk just in general of like horror media, like we have to get darker and darker in order to get anywhere because like I don't know, we've seen everything almost at this point. You know how that is? That's and like the whole thing about like older people being like, oh man, kids these days are so desensitized to just shit. I don't know. Kind of makes me think. Kind of makes me want to kill people.
I know that there's at least one person in our audience who that makes me want to kill people. Yeah, that makes me want to kill myself as well. So yeah, we're all on the same page here.
Yeah, buddy.
I know there's at least one person in our audience who wants to be a filmmaker professionally. That's I don't know if they even listen to Neotaku, but they follow me on Twitter and you know, and are subscribed to me on YouTube. So they must be at least in some capacity a fan of this because I have no audience aside from this. Anyway, so if you want to make a horror movie, do not go for it to be set in the dark. Just have some sunshine, have it be a wonderful, nice day, and fucking hit us out of left field with some shit. I don't fucking know. Do something different than the spooky, in the woods, dark blue, undersaturated over, you know, contrast, and please just make something different.
Are there examples of horror media that actually do kind of play with the aesthetic? Because I feel like there is, but just nothing comes to mind.
I don't know.
Pikotaro no Lullaby I would call a very excellent experimental horror piece. But to other people that's just a weird comedy show, so I don't know. When it comes to that.
I mean...
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know why I didn't, like, consume any of that in my head, but I'm just thinking about, like, why do fucking so many horror stories take place in the fucking woods? I don't get it. I kinda do, kinda don't.
It's because I guess you can get lost in it easily, and also trees can sometimes look like silhouettes of people. That's what springs to mind for me.
There are things unseen yet in these woods, you know. But what's also interesting about, like, the woods as a setting is that they're also, you know, the place of some of the most jovial things out there. You know, there's, like, the 100-acre woods of, you know, Winnie the Pooh. And there's, you know, the woods of Killer Keemstar's Dollar in the Woods.
Please.
Like,
fuck me.
It all comes back to memes.
In the woods. Found a dollar, found a dollar, walked in the woods. And I'm feeling so damn good.
I mean, I suppose this is more of a reflective thing for me. I'm just talking too much, so shut me up when you guys feel like it. But I'm thinking about, like, I live over here in, like, the northwest of Washington, and we have had, I don't know if The Shining was recorded here, but I know there's, like, Twin Peaks was definitely over here, and we've had a collection of horror movies that have either said they're, like, based over here in, like, the Pacific Northwest, or they've been shot here, and I wonder what's so terrifying about our woods that people just don't want to go through our woods. And I'm just like, because I guess I've grown up around it for so long that it just doesn't seem that terrifying to me. I live in a college, like, totally around, like, the northwestern rainforest. And I see deer and shit and everything. Like, I feel like I'm a fairy girl more than anything.
Like, people talk about, like, unexplored places being good for setting horror in. and yet you don't see any horror movies set in like the Australian desert or anything like that.
Mad Max does sort of do that.
Well, yeah, I would say that the first Mad Max film is the closest that series actually does come to horror. Because there's imagery like that fucking cut off hand and shit that's just like, whoa. But even then, I would say that that's more of like an action adventure film than anything else. And, you know, I guess Kangaroo Jack is actually the closest thing that we have to a horror set out in the desert.
Kangaroo Jack.
Kangaroo Jack, the best film ever made. But yeah. Like, I feel that, like, you know, there is this very strange bias towards places that people are familiar with but haven't explored deeply. So I think that's kind of why the Pacific Northwest is used a lot, because it has some of the lower population areas of the United States, as well as, like, you know, having, you know, these weird forests and shit.
Yeah, I think they're also... I mean, yeah, I guess it's the same kind of thing that I mentioned, like, it's easy to get lost in. Forests can have, like, a sort of labyrinthian kind of air about them. And I think that's another reason we see hospitals a lot in horror movies, though I think another reason that hospitals get used is also because of, like, murder tools.
It just seems so basic. Like, in general. Like, just the settings that we use for horror. Like, I much like the, like, new trend of using houses and, like, just places that are totally fine in the daytime, but turn into something totally else in the nighttime. And then, of course, that kind of trope's been there for a very long time, but I like stuff like PT. Like...
That classic CGI movie Monster House. Oh, hell yeah.
Monster House.
The old man fucked the house.
I remember me and my class talked about Monster House as a Freudian piece of narrative culture and literature. That was an experience.
But yeah, no, I do think in something like PT, kind of the unreality of something that is very realistic is like what's utilized to create this like dissonant pseudo environment that like kind of builds upon like I don't know, some psychological underpinning of like, oh, this is a house. Houses have beds and homes in them. This one has a fetus in the sink.
Yeah.
Sink fetus. Do you think, this is me positing just questions in general, which region of the world do you think does horror the best? Do you think, like, America does it better? Do you think Japan does it better? Or do you think, like, Russian horror is a new fucking, like, Serbian film and shit like that is just a new level of just experience of horror. I'm just wondering.
I don't really know any, but I think probably a lot of, like, you know, French and, like, foreign films probably have explored, like, some really unique, creepy shit. But yeah, I mean, I feel like, because we are in the West, things outside of it might seem, like, more unique in their horror, like, you know, Japan and Junji Ito, and like their entire culture sort of breeds different ways to build upon spooks. So, I don't know. I guess just things that are foreign spook.
Do you have a particular region of the world, though, David, that, like, horror really fucks with you?
I don't know. I mean, I think if I had to name one, it would be, like, European or something, because what's sprung to mind just now was the game Cry of Fear, which was made, I think, by like Polish developers or something, and they had like a lot of really haunting imagery, and like the environments of the game were also like really like isolated but like really urban environments. I think I'd say like European.
Yeah, I do think that, like, but I do think there are a lot of really interesting, like, regional variances within, like, European. Like, you can look at Southern and Northern European, and have these very different outlooks on things. You know, you look at, like, Polish, and
also,
they have,
also
like,
they're sort of, they're like mythology as well. They can draw on that kind of stuff, because, like,
yeah.
Like, every European country has their own, like, million different, like, fucking Wendigos and werewolves and whatevers.
And, like, I find, like, the way that Japanese horror deals with, like, mythology is really interesting as well. You know, even though a lot of it's not done that well, I would say that, like, you know, the mythology basis for a lot of, things like, you know, like these devil, you know, and oriented, like, horror movies, are really cool, but they don't really interact with the, like, systems that kind of created the actual true horror in, like, terms of like a literary canon. And maybe that's just something in, like, the translation from, like, woodblock printing and, like, literal religious scripts to you know, film that kind of gets lost there. And so I think that where, like, the Japanese horror canon really excels is in entirely original works. Like, have you ever seen the oil on glass short called, or paint on glass short called The Woman Who Stole Fingers?
No, but
No.
hold on. The
Never heard of
woman who...
Stole Fingers, was it?
Yeah.
Alright, I'm clicking on the YouTube video. I'm skimming. Ooh.
The experience of everything being gone under your life. Just like, oh, no.
Oh, yikes.
Can you send the link in chat? Because I'm...
Yeah.
Yeah. And we'll leave this for you guys, too. If you want to look at it as well, too.
But, like, yeah, there's an uncanny way to how everything moves within it because of the nature of it being kind of paint on glass. And so then, like, you know, it has these weird facial expressions that, I mean, you see in something like a Junji Ito, you know, work. And then, you know, there's always this trace of what was there before. And so then, like, there are these just, like, kind of phantom fingers and shit, and it's really interesting and cool and out there. And, I don't know, I want more original, like, horror from Japanese creators, because there's this very particular way that, you know, like, you can have these, like, weirdly moving, absurd, you know, mixed, media techniques. I mean, like, if you look at Serial Experiments Lane, like, the most haunting shot in, like, the OP for that show is, like, where Lane is walking towards the camera and she is the only thing that's 2D animated. Everything else is CG. And it's just like, oh, dude, that's spooky.
I just, like, jeez. Like, Japanese horror just in general really sticks with me. I'm, like, a big fan of just junk horror from Japan, especially. So, like, Ju-on and whatnot. I was really a big fan of the Siren games for a long time as, like, a young kid. I don't know. Like, there's something about the young adolescent girl who's been abused, beaten, and battered and comes back for vengeance that really fucks with me, I suppose. I don't know, like, that's just terrifying. Like, creepy girls, like, fucking... What's her actual name in English? I can't remember. But, Satoko? Sadoko. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know, just... I don't know. Different parts of the world, like, do horror in different ways. I find it just so intriguing, I suppose.
I would also say that some of the best horror in, like, anime is also, like, centered around like it is taking up in the form of hentai OVAs. Like, it sounds really weird, but, like,
Nani?
okay, So if you haven't seen like the Uchiyama Aki trilogy of OVAs, I highly recommend them. None of them are subtitled, but you don't need the subtitles to get the point. But there's this weird thing about like the sincerity of nudity and how like that links to the horrors of like penetration and stuff. I don't know, it's weird and it's creepy and I like it.
If you haven't watched My Chan's Daily Life, if you haven't read My Chan's Daily Life, you haven't experienced true horror.
Mai-chan no Nichijo. Wow, it only has a 5.6 on Mal.
What's the... Okay, let me see it on Mal, because I'm talking about the manga. It's a Ero Girl Tankoban that was put out around 2004.
That's the manga.
Yeah, no, it's an experience. I've talked to people actually who've tried to read the whole manga, and they couldn't get past the first book. Like, they just couldn't do it. It's pretty bad from what I've heard. Or like I've been on a big horror kick because of thanks to Halloween being around the corner, and I found out about what's the fucking name? It's an old I know it for sure. Give me a bit, I'll find it. But it's really weird. It's about like a young girl who's a part of a freak show. And the author of the anime won't license it publicly and distribute it because he does like weird shows with it. So like weird multimedia shows of like artwork and then freak show acts and like a whole bunch of other shit. It's fucking wild, man. Japan is crazy. Oh god. Hold on, I'll find it. But like there's so much good fucking Japanese horror. And that's why I'm a weeboo.
I know that you're a fan of Euphoria.
Oh god,
correct?
Yes, Euphoria is great. I love Euphoria. I love fucking sex in my horror.
See, we have the same taste, obviously, in horror OVAs, you know, and whatever.
I recently, I talked about it on Twitter, but I recently watched Belladonna of Sadness, and that was a horror experience that I didn't count on seeing and being like, yeah, I'm okay with this. That was...
I actually just downloaded Belladonna of Sadness. I need to watch it.
It's
soon.
So fucking good. I mean, like, I watched Anime World Order and them talking about Belladonna of Sadness. Just like, oh, guys, it's just really fucking just pompous avant-garde shit. But that was 10 years ago. I actually emailed the guy, I don't remember his name, Daryl. I actually emailed Daryl from Anime World Order about it, and we had a conversation about it, but...
Hey, yo, Daryl, what the fuck up?
What up? Well, hello, a dub-dub.
Fucking arc up, bitch.
Wobble up a dub. I'm just like scrolling through it, and like, yeah, it does kind of look like it's pompous art house stuff, but also looks like really cool.
It's really fucking gorgeous. It's like really good.
Yeah.
I personally love the story, but other people really don't care for it, or they think it's just kind of bare mineral, I guess. I don't know. I think it's pretty interesting. Let's see here. Let's, talking about, like, just horror in general, like, as people and stuff, it kind of makes me think, what about horror experiences that you guys have had in life, just in general? As Ethan of H3H3 would put it, tell us your ghost stories.
Oh, ghost stories.
Okay. When I lived in a small town, we had this house that was built in the 1800s. This like just isn't no jokes or anything, right? Mm-hmm. And there was this upstairs room, and I would use it as like a room where I had my PS2 set up in there and stuff.
Nice.
And occasionally I would sleep up there, like if I was having a sleepover with friends or whatever, or if like my cousins were over, they would use my room since it was bigger and they could just like fit an extra mattress in there than like in the room upstairs. And I swear that there was a very spooky, like 8 foot or whatever tall black ghost or man, I don't know, in there, and it was just ooh.
Something kind of strange happened recently. So a few months ago, we were having like weird shit with our water. So for a solid couple of weeks, we'd be getting like orangey, greeny colored water like leaking into our like cutlery drawers in the kitchen.
Huh.
And just general like water leaking and shit, and that was annoying, and we didn't really know where it's coming from. And then I think there was just like one day where like everyone was out of the house but me. So like I think in the morning I specifically remembered like, you know, my parents had like, you know, dried up and cleaned out the drawer, and I think they said that they'd fixed the leak, or they'd figure out where it was from. A few hours later, the drawer was like full of water, and then just like unrelatedly, I'd walked into the living room and our fish tank was missing half of its water.
What?
Our fish tank was half empty, and there was water all over the floor as well, near like our TV and electronics and shit. I still don't know.
Did you fucking kill that fish?
Yeah.
Fucking.
Did you kill the baby?
I don't know. It's like barely like a ghost thing, but it was. I just remember. I don't know, like, because like my brain was making the connection between these leaks in our drawers and like missing water from the fish bowl, and it was creepy. It was spooky.
It's really
That's what we call a demon fish. That's where you call an exorcist. And luckily enough, I have my wares available on patreon.com/Neotaku.
Exorcist.
Shit, that should
services.
actually be a perk. Like, yeah, Joji will come around and do an exorcism for you.
That's when you start asking the question, where the fuck is my fish and what happened to my fish?
Yeah, Jojong, do you have spooky stories?
Other spooky stories, I don't know.
Oh yeah, I forgot you just did one. Yeah.
I used to.
Okay, go ahead.
I used to live in up near Sydney in a town called Woy Woy, and we lived right next to
my grandparents are there.
And we lived at the next to the golf course. And my grandfather died in the bathroom at that house. That's just unrelated to the spooky story.
Yeah, that's just unrelated to your haunted bathtub, you know.
Yeah, no. But we used to keep getting like golf balls through our windows and stuff at that house. And I was a little baby boy. And one night, one of our windows broke. And my mother heard me crying, and then she found me surrounded in a near-perfect circle of vomit, screaming, "Mommy, what's happening?"
Oh my god.
Okay, that's not okay.
Oh my god.
That's not alright.
Yeah. This was like when I was like 1 or 2 years old. Yeah.
Well.
So, I don't know, maybe I'm a demon child or
Maybe
something.
you're possessed, maybe. We gotta check later.
Yeah. Raj, have you got one?
The first time I ever experienced ghosts, I've always been a pretty chill person when it comes to like believing in shit. Like I don't believe in anything in particular, but like I'm one of those types that's like, I think I've talked about it a bit before, of course, but like bad juju with like Ouija boards and shit like that. I mean, I don't believe in anything intrinsically, but I believe that there are spirits. There are bad energies and good energies, and some things you should just kind of avoid in life.
And you gotta train your chakras to control them.
Yeah.
I was about to.
You gotta make sure so you can put your chi energy away. You know, make sure you need to blast a motherfucker on the weekends. You know,
you gotta raise that Christ consciousness level.
But,
you
yeah,
know, just
gotta rub your Jo crystal a bit too. Yeah. Anyhow, this little Jo crystal collector. I was a little kiddo. So my father and my father's family lived in a very, very large house in Washington. It was about like 4 stories, and it was over, I think, 200 years old. The house was lovely. It's actually one of my most fond memories of my childhood. But my mom always asserted to me throughout, like, elementary school that that house was fucking haunted. And I was like, and she was like, I will not sleep in that house. So I spent a lot of my childhood sleeping over at my grandparents' house because my mom, decided, hey, I want to go to a Nirvana concert. Fuck you, kids. And it was one. I have 2 stories particular to this house, but the first one was I was sleeping downstairs in the downstairs parlor. And the downstairs parlor has tons of my grandfather's old collectibles. He used to be a professor, and I think it was like Paleolithics and stuff like that. He collected shells and shit, and like that downstairs basement was creepy as fuck. But one thing I remember in particular was I was sleeping and watching TV on the analog TV, and suddenly, out of nowhere, while I'm watching Courage the Cowardly Dog, the TV just turns off. And I'm sitting there, I'm like 11 at the time, and I'm like, okay, what the fuck's happening with the TV? What the hecky is happening? And then I try to turn on the TV, and it's static. And I'm like, okay, it's obviously probably, the connection was lost. It's an old analog, like, antenna TV. So I turn it, flip it back on, it's not happening. And then I start, like, hearing weird shit happening upstairs. And it's like, 2 a.m. I was a very, very rebellious little kid. And I try and turn back on the TV, and I can just slightly hear Cartoon Network, but I can also hear something else. And I'm just a little babu in a dark basement in a 200-year-old house. And then I swear to God, one of the lamps just breaks. Like, the glass light bulb just pops. And that's when I was like, all right, time to go sleep upstairs. I guess that's a horror experience. Another one was, and I'll keep this one short, and it's always fucking light bulbs, I swear to God. My dad is not around anymore. My dad died when I was very young. But like, the house is haunted again, and we were over there, I think it was a year after his funeral and whatnot, and I was hanging out, and I was playing on my Game Boy Advance, playing Finding Nemo Adventure on the couch in that same basement, and the same...
Dude, that fucking... By the way, that... Sorry. That Finding Nemo video game, most bullshit fucking game on the Game Boy SP.
Yep.
Just saying.
It was my dad bought that Game Boy and that game for me. And I was just sitting there, and then the lights start going on and off. And I don't know what's going on, but I have a feeling it's my dad. And I'm like, all right, you need to calm down. I think I've had more run-ins with ghosts than I should. But my mom's really, like, just pushy about, no, it's ghosts. No, it's ghosts. I know for sure. And I'm like, all right, mommy. Whatever's Gucci with you. Oh, man. So what are you guys going to dress up as for Halloween? I
mean, there's not a huge celebration of Halloween in, like, Canberra.
Oh,
or
yeah.
at least Australia. Like, yeah. But my local video game bar does have a zombie night going on, and so I might be going down and trying to get some
so much
zombie puss.
Zombie puss.
Gotta get a little bit of that pussy.
That sounds like so much fun. I forget that you guys don't really celebrate Halloween hardcore over there like we do over here.
Yeah, it's over by like 7 p.m. It's really sad because
it's all babies.
yeah,
celebrating
it's really
Halloween.
just like a baby thing. So like it starts at like 4 and it ends by like 7 and it's like it's daylight the whole time.
Oh, that's fucking gay. That's so
No,
lame.
there is
Yeah.
a quote of yours that there's a tweet of yours that I need to quote. It's haters will see you trick or treating and say it's not Halloween.
One
What
of
was
my
the rest of it?
no, it was haters will say stop knocking on my what? I don't remember.
Haters will say like, "Why are you trick or treating? It's not Halloween."
Some shit like that. I'll pin it back to
Great
my
joke, guys. 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Great one.
Can we edit it so
Sorry.
it sounds like we did the joke good?
Yeah. Sure. We'll do it.
Insert David's funny tweet right now.
Haters will see you trick-or-treating and they'll say, stop knocking on my door, it's not Halloween. There you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Insert audio cue of uproarious laughter about 3 seconds ago. Thanks to our brand new audio engineer. I'm gonna name him Jeffrey Jeffrey Young Thug.
Just say Harambe?
Jeffrey Young Thug. Young Thug, that's his
Oh,
name.
man.
Our audio engineer.
Have we got questions?
Let's see here, actually, because questions are always spooky and everything. Let's throw up the question.
You don't know who asks them.
You know what we do? We answer questions. That's what we do.
That's what this podcast is. It's a question answering.
This is the
podcast.
kind of quality
Nothing more,
content
nothing
you
less.
guys can support on Patreon at some point. Okay.
It is.
Please.
Let's see here. I'm trying to find specifically questions that we haven't answered. So let me know if we've already answered this. What older anime are actually worth watching now?
Yeah, we did that.
Yeah, we did that
last week.
one. Cut out whatever you think here. This is just fat.
Yeah.
What flaws do you think have kept you from something that gets a lot of praise? Like flaws in just a show?
Probably, yeah.
I don't like many popular things because I don't know, they annoy me. Like there are little bits about them that just annoy me, and then I just detract all of my like from them. That's why Kimi no Na wa has a 1 out of 10 on Mal from me.
Oh, rude. Flaws. I think me and Judge had a little discussion with someone on our Neotaku Discord thing. What bothers us, I think, quite a bit, like about things with broad appeal, is that they can't really hit nuances like at all. And I think for us that is it fails to reach the kind of depth that we would want. And Kimi no Na wa definitely had that kind of problem, I think.
That was like our Samus Returns fatal flaw, but with Koei no Katachi especially, that like it's just trying to be something that's very broad appealing with a complex topic.
Yeah. I find like my personal flaws that like really just turn a show off on me is just trying to be fucking edgy and like be cool and everything. Like not a show, but Maho Shoujo Site, the manga. It's trying really to like appeal to that crowd, and it's just such a fucking turn off. It's just edgy bullshit that's just not worth your time. And like, or like, you know, from an irony perspective, I really enjoy stuff like fucking Ergo Proxy, or I don't know, Elfen Lied, but like I can't stand watching Elfen Lied for like a 10-minute period because I know what it's trying to get at, and it's like, stop shoving it down my fucking throat. I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah. What the fuck? Okay. Why does anime/manga try to extend their lifespan? A look at the nature of competitive markets surrounding anime and manga serializations. Okay. Gee.
I mean, anime try and like live for as long as a time as possible because that's what, in the end, kind of gets you, you know, the $1 billion mark. I mean, like, you know, when you talk about anime that have made $1 billion, I think there's only like 6 of them in total. You know, there's Evangelion, the newest entry to that list. There's Dragon Ball Z. There's Tetsuya no Tomu, and I think that's literally it. I think that's all of the anime that have made over $1 billion in like their lifespan. And, you know, these are all anime that have been like revered for as long a time as possible. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think just like it completely makes sense from like any business standpoint. Because I mean, if people remember it, then they're gonna buy merchandise, and if they remember it, they're gonna buy more of it. And if it goes on for a long time, like Bleach or whatever, they're gonna keep buying it. Easy to get more money.
And they're gonna keep talking about it as well. Like, talking about something is the ultimate form of marketing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's pretty simplistic. Like, if you have a successful serialization, if you have a successful series and it makes money, you obviously want to keep it going and you want to keep continuing it. I mean, from an artistic standpoint, we can obviously say, you know, what's the point in continuing something that's already over? But, like, from a business standpoint, people are like, no, you should beat that cow until it gives you more meat and give me the Wagyu, pretty much. Give me the Wagyu.
And on that note, I guess we should be wrapping up this episode
I
of the
hope
Neotaku
we've spooked
podcast.
you into...
Unless we want to beat a very spooky dead horse.
I hope we have spooked you into be afraid of ants. Afraid of Ants the movie. And considering the scariest video games you should play this spooky Halloween season, we will be getting drunk on Halloween. I will be a witch.
Yeah.
And we will probably go do something else right now.
Yeah. But you should follow us on Twitter now, because we now have an official Neotaku Twitter at NeotakuPod. Hell yeah. Set that one up today. Applied for verification. Let's hope that we get that little blue check mark, you know? And then you should check out the Neotaku Discord, because I shit post in there a lot. And there's nothing people love more than Joji Matthews shit posts.
Also, being that I'm looking at this list right now of our questions and everything, we kind of need a revitalization of stuff that you guys want us to ask. So you are welcome to go to the hashtag AskNeotaku, and you can leave your questions and whatnot there. We're going to try and be a bit more social on social media as a group.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you to, like, at the Neotaku Pod account when you tweet with the hashtag AskNeotaku, because that's just going to, you know, help us a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
Get a little bit of that in there, you know? I don't know. Also, follow us, subscribe to us on iTunes, and download the podcast on iTunes. Yep, that's going to be helpful as well. Leave a 5-star review. I will read it on the show.
Even
this
if
week
it is
we didn't
shit.
get any. Yeah, you literally. And download us on Podbean as well, because I like a little bit of that multi-platform ego boost. Yeah. Anyway, have a happy Halloween and get fucking wasted.
Thank you for watching us, guys. We hope to see you soon for another very dramatic episode.
Oh, yes. Yes, our next episode has the most special guest of all. He's the one, the only, the...
I'm gonna cut it here.
Oh, yes, let's do that.
And we just play the music out. Oh, God.